Hey everyone, Geophysicist Stefan Burns here. We have been seeing an increasing electrification of our planet for not just years now, but decades. And this has a bunch of ramifications as it relates to what's happening here energetically in earthquake activity, volcanic activity, weather, and more. And so in today's video, I wanted to describe the global electric circuit and provide you an overview of some of the science. So when you watch my other space weather presentations, or just in general, you have a better understanding of how energy flows around our planet and these systems involved. And so we will start here with this visualization that I've created. Here we see the Earth, it's rotating, and we see this electrical layer there, some distance off the Earth, let's say about 1,000 kilometers, and that is the ionosphere. The ionosphere is made up of ions. These are charged particles, meaning they have a positive or a negative charge, just like a magnet, you could say. And as a result of that, they follow the electromagnetic force much more than the force of gravity. And as a result of the flow and movement of these charged particles, for example, protons and electrons and other ions, they form these powerful electric currents. We also see these lightning strikes that are occurring around the globe. We have about 50 every single second popping off globally, and this helps drive the global electric circuit. These lightning strikes produce a bunch of radiation, light radiation that is. This is going all the way from near 0 hertz up to X-ray light. Sometimes it's even supervolts. We get gamma rays produced from those plasma arcs through the atmosphere. It's really quite intense. Of course, you see the optical light produced by a lightning strike when you see it light up the sky, but it's also producing the other frequencies of light that we can't see. So this would be, for example, infrared. If you're close to it, you may feel the heat of it. You don't want to be that close, but you could. You could pick this up in the radio microwave band. They also produce Schumann resonances, which are these naturally resonant wavelengths of light for the Earth at 7.8 hertz, at 14 hertz, 20 hertz, 26, 33, 39, 45 hertz, and higher frequencies at lower power. Those overlap with our brain waves. They are one of the most interesting geophysical energy forces on our planet. They resonate with the Earth because of her physical dimensions, and they don't turn off. Those are shown here with this morphing field of 3 different colors showing the first 3 modes. Of course, we have the magnetic field of the Earth as well. There are a lot of different components to the global electric circuit. And in general, because solar activity has been increasing since solar cycle 24, which was a low period of solar activity going from about 2010 to 2014 for the maximum in the entire solar cycle being about 12 years in length, solar cycle 25 being stronger than solar cycle 24 means that we've had more energy pumped into our system as a result. And we also have all the anthropogenic forces adding into that because we are increasing the greenhouse effect. A lot of water vapor in the atmosphere, the main greenhouse gas, some of the other trace ones as well, keeping more of that heat in general, driving Earth electrification. And there are some estimates that lightning strike activity 50 to 100 years from now may be 10 to 20 times greater than it is now. And again, Schumann resonances, which overlap perfectly with our brain waves, are produced by lightning strikes. Think about how that might change our conscious experience if that is to continue. But there's more than just that. So let's dive deeper into the ionosphere and the global electric circuit. So we are on this wave of increasing energy here on Earth, and I don't know when we're going to hit the peak of that and then maybe go down into a trough, right? Everything follows a rhythmic wave pattern in reality in the universe. That's what it seems, unless you reach that 0 point. That's a whole different conversation. But regardless, we seem to be increasing energy here on Earth because of all these factors, primarily because of the sun, but others as well. There's also interstellar and galactic forces at play here, which is very interesting as well. So here's the global electric circuit. We kind of see a nice diagram here. Here's the ionosphere. We see these electric currents in the ionosphere. One thing to keep in mind with the ionosphere is that in general, it has what's known as an equipotential. And that is meaning that its electric field is fairly homogeneous across the ionosphere. And that's about 250,000 volts or 250 kV. There is a difference in the ionosphere equipotential. So it's no longer an equipotential up in the Arctic and the Antarctic circle. So the high latitude regions, there's unique dynamics there. But for the rest of the globe in general, it's about 250,000 volts. And Earth's surface is 0 volts. And so when you have an electric field gradient, you get a current that flows between them, seeking to equalize those potentials, because energy flows where there is a gradient. So because the Earth's surface is 0 in general, and the ionosphere is 250, you get this current that flows between them. But there are differences in fair weather conditions where you don't have any clouds or thunderstorms, anything like that. Clear blue skies, you get this fair weather current coming down. And then in areas of enhanced atmospheric activity, this could be even just rain clouds, which are electrified, of course, but also thunder clouds, big cyclones and more. You get a different flow of energy in between the ground surface and the ionosphere. The big thing to keep in mind, though, the reason why these haven't equalized is the fact that the atmosphere in general is very resistive. So Earth's surface has a conductivity about 10 to the negative 7 Siemens, S-E-I-M-E-N-S, and that is about the same conductivity for the ionosphere. So they're not that conductive compared to something like copper, but they are fairly conductive as it relates to the atmosphere in between, specifically the troposphere, the lowest layer of the atmosphere, because that has a conductivity of about 10 to the negative 14 Siemens, so 7 orders of magnitude different. That really slows down the flow of electric current. It never fully stops it. There's always a flow of electric current. The question is, what is the amount, the strength, etc. So it greatly is reduced, meaning these don't quickly equilibrate. But in general, there is this flow. And that also means that with unique solar and space weather events, like a ground level enhancement, for example, a massive explosion on the sun, a huge amount of relativistic flux coming down to the Earth, that actually does ionize the atmosphere that's normally resistive to a greater degree, allowing for this equalization to occur to a greater degree. There's never going to be probably a complete equalization. That would be wild. But that is a dynamic that is at play. So there's a lot of things that could happen that usually don't happen, or we don't have evidence of happening, but physically, like the science of physics, it could occur. One thing to note there is that before some earthquakes, we have measured conductivity, air conductivity sensors at the surface going way off the charts, indicating that there was some sort of ionization of the lower atmosphere that allowed circuit closure, like an electric circuit closure of the subsurface, and then the earthquake ruptured. So there's a lot of dynamics here that we are still learning. The electric field potentials of a thundercloud can reach well beyond the electric field potentials of the ionosphere. This is 250 kV, 250,000 volts. For a thundercloud, it can be like 100 megavolts. So that'd be 100 million volts. So you have really powerful dynamics at play here. Again, Schumann resonances being produced by these lightning strikes, and a whole bunch of other things too. When the sun hits the ionosphere as it rotates into view, that also produces Schumann resonances and more. We see this current here has a strength of about 10 to the negative 12 amps per square meter. And here we see the equipotential. This is from Feynman, some of his lectures. This is 400,000 volts. And we see that if you were standing in this grounded, you actually bring up that electric potential with you of 0. So the atmospheric gradient flows around you, though typically it goes up about 100 volts every meter or so. So it actually stacks up pretty quickly. In the United States, it's 120 volts for your wall plug. In Europe, it's 220. Right? The reason why we're not getting zapped at the head, because let's say someone's 6 feet tall, is because it is so resistive. So we have some very interesting dynamics with the global electric circuit in general, a lot more that we don't know than we do know. But one thing that we know undoubtedly is the fact that it gets charged up to a much greater degree during solar maximum versus solar minimum. And we are right now at the end of solar maximum for solar cycle 25, the beginning of the descending phase. And so we've had all this energy pumped into the Earth as a result of a lot of solar flares. Let's learn more about it. Here we have 2 data sets showing X-ray flux at geosynchronous orbit. It's 5.6 Earth radii floating around the Earth out in space, and for 2 time periods. We have July 2019, this is solar minimum, and we also have July 2024, which was solar maximum of this solar cycle. We see that our X-ray flux, which is the frequency of light produced by solar flares, There's also extreme ultraviolet light produced by solar flares. You also have even radio frequency, solar radio flare bursts, and more. But this is one of the primary ways we measure the strength of a solar flare. We see that's down here at 10 to negative 8 in the A class range. And if we look at July 2024, this is solar minimum. If we look at solar maximum, we see that we're in the C class range, even going up into the M class range. This right here is a 3 orders of magnitude difference. So a 10,000 increase going from solar minimum to solar maximum in terms of X-ray flux. We measure this in terms of watts per square meter, and we see that these values there are not that large, right? It's going from 10 to negative 8 to 10 to negative 5 or so watts per square meter. Total solar radiance, the overall energy output from the sun that we receive here on Earth, is about 1,360 watts per square meter. So this is a very small component of total solar radiance because, again, most of the energy is contained in infrared, optical, and ultraviolet light. And then you have less energy in extreme ultraviolet and then even less in X-ray. But we do see this increase. Now, why this matters as it relates to the global electric circuit is that this specific wavelength and frequency range of light, X-ray light, is what is absorbed into the ionosphere. So optical light, obviously, we're seeing because it's reaching through and we're at the surface, we can see during the day, right? Thermal heat is heating up the Earth. Ultraviolet light still reaches us at the surface. Some of it gets absorbed by ozone and things of that nature. But extreme ultraviolet X-ray light is absorbed directly into the ionosphere, which is why we have an ionosphere. Those ions were originally neutral molecules or gas molecules, and they were ionized by this radiation. So a 1000x increase in this specific frequency light changes the properties of the ionosphere quite a bit. And anyone that operates like a ham radio or something like that knows that transmission conditions and their ability to operate that equipment and reach distance, different distances around the globe is dramatically different during solar maximum versus solar minimum. So we go through this about 12-year cycle, and as a result of us soon approaching solar minimum, right, we will be there around 2030, 2032. We will have the Earth energy system decharge as it relates to right now, but overall, we are on this ascending wave of increasing solar energy, especially if you look back to solar cycle 24, which was weaker than 25. They originally estimated that solar cycle 25 was going to be similar to 24, or a lot of people were actually estimating that we were going to enter into a grand solar minimum and not have any activity. That is not what happened. We're definitely not in a grand solar minimum. Maybe it starts up with the next one. You never know until you start the solar cycle. But we are on this increasing wave of energy right now, and X-ray flux is a big driver of the ionosphere, which is the main component of the global electric circuit. If we really want to understand the global electric circuit, then we should probably talk about ion precipitation, because this is a dominant factor in terms of how energy is received from the space environment to deeper layers closer to the surface of the Earth. So we have these radiation belts that surround the planet. They make up the plastosphere. We have radiation belts, and then we also have plasma and Earth's magnetotail, the part of the magnetic field which stretches out behind the Earth opposite the sunward direction. And when you have a solar storm impact, you can have ion precipitation because it'll push and crunch the magnetic field, causing the plastosphere to reorganize, and a lot of those ions get induced to flow down the magnetic field and enter into our atmosphere. And they are very highly charged because Earth's plastosphere acts as a particle accelerator. Think of like CERN, except way bigger and better. And then they go down and they have so much energy. If they hit one molecule, which is a quantum probabilistic thing, eventually they do, they hit one molecule, it will then energize and ionize instantly, become very energetic itself, and it creates this particle cascade. So one single particle from our space environment, because the density overall, the actual density, the mass of our radiation belts and our plastosphere is very, very low, but the energy is very, very high. These are very highly charged ions. They will, of course, the atmosphere below has more density, right? As you get closer to the surface, there's this more density of gas and material. So as that single particle comes in, it creates this cascade, this shower of ions. Eventually it dies out, but that energy then gets deposited, you could say, into that atmospheric layer closer to the surface. Now you have more electric field potentials and you're getting closer to the subsurface and the mantle and the core. So we have ways for energy to come from our space environment into the Earth energy system and overall our geophysical system that involves the solid Earth itself. And so as you go from solar max to solar minimum, we're going to have less things like this occurring because you're going to have less solar storm impacts and you're going to have a less charged ionosphere, so there'll be less ions to precipitate down. The radiation belts will also be less charged up, but right now things are hot. They are going. So we have a very charged up ionosphere. We're having a lot of ion precipitation right now, a lot of geomagnetic storming, a lot of solar flares. 2025 was one of the biggest years on record for earthquake activity in terms of seismic energy release. So we've been through a lot. We've had a lot of significant planetary conjunctions and alignments over the past 5 years. And also 2025, really big. 2026, really big, specifically coming up February 20th with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. So if you feel like there's just been a tremendous amount of energy happening and like sorting it all and you're just feeling it all, well, that's the case. We can look at all the science here to explain that. That's cool. We have the data and the proof. We can also just feel that, right? We're naturally in tune and in resonance with the Earth, with all these energies. And so the science just confirms what many of us already knew. So the global electric circuit is a key component of the Earth and what is happening here and driving the geologic evolution of the planet. As we continue to electrify here, the global electric circuit is going to get stronger, more complex and nuanced. And because we evolved to be in resonance with the Earth, its global electric circuit, the Schumann resonances and more, I expect that we're going to start to see increasingly amazing things unfold as it relates to our own human capabilities. And I think we're also going to see some incredible things happen for other animal species. Animals becoming quickly a lot more intelligent. And things of that nature. So wanted to give you an overview of the global electric circuit just in general so you could be aware of some of the forces and factors at play here on our Earth and kind of the overall direction of where things are going. The sun is the big driver, but we are also directly influencing Earth's development now through our own activities and anthropogenic emissions and more. We've liberated a lot of water that was sequestered in hydrocarbons because there's hydrogen, carbon, oxygen, right? You create water from that. A lot of ancient water has been liberated, put into our atmosphere, into our oceans. A lot of heat has been liberated from those exothermic reactions, put into our oceans primarily. And so all this is driving Earth electrification. And as this continues, I think we're going to see more and more events like this. And this is a substorm from a recent solar storm impact and the geomagnetic storm that we had. This was following a substorm that followed afterwards. But expect there to be more plasma events here on our planet. And I think we're going to be quite surprised at times with how that manifests. So the world is really opening up and expressing itself in new ways that we currently aren't aware of, and we'll find out. I will keep you up to date as we go into this because this is my natural curiosity and my passion. I love understanding what's happening with the Earth and tracking down all the variables and doing my best to figure out what is happening, delivering that to you daily. So if you'd like to stay up to date, then please subscribe to the channel, smash that thumbs up button to help the channel grow. I have a whole bunch of natural holistic wellness products and also some merchandise on my website at earthevolution.com/store. You can check that out there. Anything purchased there helps my efforts, and it's all produced by me, at least the holistic wellness products. That's all done basically in-house or by close friends. So really good stuff, and wishing you all the best. Have a great day. I'll see you all very soon.